The big story in the last 24 hours, and that is the diagnosis of the former President Joe Biden with an aggressive form of prostate cancer. You know, he is an 82-year-old man. There has been, a lot of speculation about his health in recent years, but nevertheless, this has no doubt come as a shock down out there.
Yeah, I think it definitely will be shocking for Americans, whatever their political persuasion, to hear that he's being diagnosed with prostate cancer. It is, we're told, an aggressive form of the cancer, and it has spread to his bones, which is obviously makes it even more serious. And that means probably unlikely that he would undergo surgery, according to cancer experts here. More likely it will be managed, they say, with a combination of drugs. It does obviously, as you alluded to, Lucy, feed into that sort of wider context during the election campaign last year of his general health, of his mental acuity, of his frailty. And already we are hearing from the sort of MAGA loyalists some pretty punchy responses to this. I've just read a tweet or an ex-post by Laura Loomer, who is a sort of conspiracy theorist who sometimes has the ear of Donald Trump. And she said the cover-up of a terminally ill, illegitimate president is grounds for the Democrats never to hold office again. Incredibly punchy stuff, but less so, but still raising the similar sort of questions about whether there has been some sort of cover-up in did the Democrat Party, did Joe Biden's family know about this cancer when he was running last year? J.D. Vance has been speaking in the last few hours. Here's what he said.
Yeah, look, I mean, first of all, of course, we wish the best for the former president's health. And, it sounds pretty serious, but hopefully he makes the right recovery. Like, I will say, whether the right time to have this conversation is now or at some point in the future, we really do need to be honest about whether the former president was capable of doing the job. And that's no, that you can separate the desire for him to have the right health outcome with the recognition that whether it was doctors or whether there were staffers around the former president, I don't think he was able to do a good job for the American people. And that's not politics. That's not because I disagreed with him on policy. That's because I don't think that he was in good enough health. In some ways, I blame him less than I blame the people around him. And why didn't the American people have a better sense of his health picture? Why didn't the American people have more accurate information about what he was actually dealing with? This is serious stuff. And this is the guy who carries around the nuclear football for the world's largest nuclear arsenal. This is not child's play, and we can pray for good health, but also recognize that if you're not in good enough health to do the job, you shouldn't be doing the job.
So he is raising this kind of idea that there should be a full and frank disclosure of Joe Biden's health, and it feeds into that kind of narrative that there was more to this than perhaps the Democrat Party were alluding to. I know we've been talking about this new book that's coming out by a CNN anchor, Jake Tapper, called Original Sin, which kind of sets out what he claims is a broader cover-up about the state of Joe Biden's physical and mental health.
Now, I mean, probably it's customary for when a former president leaves the White House. Joe Biden left in January, and he has kept a relatively low profile since then. He passed the 100-day mark with Trump, but did appear on telly on US television with his wife ahead of the release of these books that you just alluded to there, Dan. So he started to slowly re-emerge, and he very much dispelled any speculation and what was being talked about in these books regarding his cognitive capabilities as president. But do you think that this speculation, rumour, scandal, do you think that perhaps will ebb away now, given the very real state of his health now?
I'm not sure it will, I mean, I reread the statement that his office put out, and they said he had been diagnosed on Friday. So on the surface of it, that seems a pretty, open and shut case that they just found out about it, and then 2 days later they let the public know. But there have been a lot of doctors on TV and online here who have said, look, he was the President of the United States. He would have had endless regular health checks. The idea that they missed this and that they only just found it on Friday, having already spread to his bones, seems unlikely. Now, at the moment, we've got nothing more to go on than the statement his office have put out. But this feeds into this kind of wider story of questions about his health. We've had the audio of those interviews that he did with Robert Hur, who was a special counsel who was asked to look into whether there were grounds for him being prosecuted for retaining classified documents. And he basically concluded that Joe Biden, a jury would find that he was a sort of elderly, well-meaning man who, had a poor memory, I think was the phrase that he used. And the audio of that has now been released of his talking to Robert Hur. And I think that gives the distinct impression that he was at times struggling to remember key dates. He was losing his train of thought. And all of that feeds into that wider narrative of, had he won the election, would he have been fit? Did the Democrat Party, in fact, know more about his health struggles and his mental acuity than they were letting on to the American public?